Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have a beautiful game to share with you from Vikandze 1998. On the white end, Judit Polgar playing against Viswanathan. Alright, the opening we work with Sicilian defense and the variation Najdorf. Bishop e3, e5, where to go with the knight. Most popular is knight b3. And in response to that, most popular is bishop e6, watching over the weakened d5 square. This is where there's a big fight in the game, over d5. This is a primarily positional encounter, fairly one-sided positional encounter, I would say. And towards the very end, we see a wonderful tactical sequence. Second most popular reply here for white, move in the game, knight f3. There's a big difference between these two knight posts. If black responds to knight f3 in the same way as knight b3, which is to say bishop e6, that would no longer be a good idea because it is not stable. Knight g5 is there to disturb the bishop. So in this game, it is bishop e7 here, bishop c4, same sides castles game, bishop e6, and from here it's queen e2. Polgar not interested in initiating the exchange on e6 because that would do what? Repair the hole. Black can also say thanks for the half-opened f-file. This case of doubled e-pawns would be a positive for black. So how it is played, queen e2, bishop given a kick, back, and the exchange of light square bishops occurs on b3. We follow the general rule, taking towards the center, and from here, black connects knights. I wondered about a possible pawn grab. So for instance, b4, what are we doing here? Knight a4 would be a top reply. Keep in mind, hopping into d5 in this position, not ideal because you're not in a spot to recapture on the square with a piece. That's really how you want to play it here as white. You want to be able to operate on that square with pieces. Keep this pawn backward, potential target. If knight d5 here, black can take, you have to clog up that gap with a pawn. What you could play here in response to b4, knight a4. This would be poison in this position. Bishop b6 is there, the knight supports that, queen is hit, knight will be won shortly. So, no b4 here, it is knight b to d7, rook opposite the queen, and the reply here, queen c7. If we revisit b4 in this position, this is where you could see the knight hop in to the center, and white is in a spot to recapture with the rook. This here would end up being white would have a decisive advantage. After that move, this knight stands much taller than the black knight on e4, placing a restriction on the queen. Very uncomfortable for black. Not really a good idea to allow this knight to live for more than a move, really. If knight takes knight here, rook takes, and let's say this follow-up knight f6, you have your pick. You could go after the a-pawn or stay trained on this file here, keeping the pawn in a pin and being in a spot to meet knight takes e4 with knight takes e5. All right, how it plays out here, we do not see this kick of the knight. Queen gets off of the same file. Here's the rook. Bishop g5, rook f to c8, right around the corner. b4, ready to crash through next on c2. Knight e1 is there. Primary function, defend c2. Secondary idea, knight here to e1. This is step one of many on this knight's journey to the d5 square. It's going to take a little bit of time, but once it's there, there's no removing it. From here, Queen B7 is played. If black gives the knight a kick here, this is my favorite move. It's turning out to be my favorite move to cover. If B4 in this case, it's important not to dive into D5. If you dive into D5, there would be that boomerang tactic, knight takes knight, and bishop takes bishop, and then the knight circles back, recapturing that piece. In the case of B4, white would first swipe the knight, and only then hop in, removing that bishop as a liability. Okay, no B4 here. It is Queen B7. Bishop takes knight. Knight takes bishop. Knight takes knight. We are tending towards a what? Superior minor piece position. Still the fight over D5. Still reinforced with a piece. Chop, chop. Black aiming for this challenge. Here comes C3. A square has opened up for the knight. Knight C2. And from there are now two paths into the D5 square. Once it's there to stay. Black's response to C3 is B4. If the rook is challenged, you back off. You stay trained here, keep this pawn backward, a restriction on the bishop. That's really the way to play it. This rook is superior to this one here. How black plays it, it is B4. Response C4. Both sides insert a flight square. Rook C5, Rook D1, and from here, A5 is played. After A5, there's Knight C2. Now how are you stopping? I mean, is there a way to stop the knight from getting into D5? There isn't. If you try Bishop G5, that will hang the D6 pawn. So I questioned this position right around here. I wondered, was there a better move black could have played instead of A5? So I had a look at this position. In other words, I tested out the following. I wondered about Queen B6, preparing to meet Knight C2 with Bishop G5. The queen is there, watching over that D6 pawn. The issue with Bishop G5, yes, you tame the knight. You're prepared to swipe it if it hops to E3. But now this queen will be off the charts active. Available to white is Queen G4 and Queen D7. And just like that, this is already a one position. D6 is about to collapse. No successful way to defend. Rook C6. There's knight takes B4. This is a decisive advantage for white. So the knight is going to be able to get into this D5 square. It's just how it is. A5, Knight C2, King G7, Queen D3. Still no time to keep the knight out. Have this pressure on D6. Both majors. Rook C6, Knight E3. Improvement for the king. Small improvements from here. Shuffling for black. Small improvements for white. Bishop D8. Knight D5. That is move 30. And this knight is not going to make another move until move 60 and 61. The final two moves of the game. Black has to continually work around this monster from this point on. Good luck. All right, from here, Rook C5, Queen E3. Let's see the plan here, just reorganizing the pieces. Okay, maybe introducing now a knight move and then crashing through here. Watching over this point now. Queen D1, King G8, H4, and Anand's reply to H4 is King G7. So this next move, King G7, maybe the losing move at the end of the day. A bit surprising to see King G7 here. Top in the computer's eyes, this is normally the knee-jerk reaction to H4. You go with H5. That's how the computer wants to play it. Why was this move maybe not played? Playing with this completely symmetrical kingside structure, there may have been some concern about a possible c5 break and some knight repositioning to c4, some accident potentially happening on d8, maybe hitting with check. Tough to know exactly. This is a possible pawn break in the position. This is something to look into. This is one of the ways white is benefiting in this position, not just the superior minor piece situation, but white has a pawn break and black doesn't. So this could really change things. Black has to be on the lookout for the break. I'm not quite sure how exactly to convert this. The computer struggles to find a clean path after h5 is there. How it is played out in this game, king g7, h5, and now black hops to the newly weakened g5 square. So where do we go from here? Okay, improve the queen, take a step back with the rook, step back with the queen, rook h1, introducing in some cases maybe a capture, maybe a push. Let's keep black guessing. These next few moves are really nice. This tension remains. Polgar keeps Anand guessing what's going to happen with this pawn. From here, king g8, f3. What is going on with f3? This opens up a square for the queen. And this is going to place a restriction shortly on black's pieces. Right around the corner, queen f2. And what are you doing about the queen entering here or here? Who's going to stop that? Who's going to stop those posts? Well, the rook. Black is there in time with rook b8, queen f2, rook b7, holding up the queen entry. If she's allowed to get to one of those two squares, these start to be targets. Okay, the queen is under control. There's something more going on with the queen on f2, keep in mind. There's this two-move sequence, queen g1 to h2, and a battery can quickly be formed on the h-file. Is black in a position to cope with that? Polgar's response now is to release the tension. And black's response is to break the general rule in this case. Captures with the f-pawn, that is considered best. If black followed the general rule, taking towards the center, there's going to be a problem. Queen g1 is a strong move here. Looking next, queen h2, queen h7, h8. How do you really even make a move here as black actually? Looking at the pieces. A rook move, you could look at entering on a7 or b6. The rook is stuck. What do you do here? King g7, queen h2. It's going to be mate shortly. I had a look at the following move. Bishop f6. If bishop f6, the queen could inch up here to e3, and the queen is doing a wonderful job here. The queen is being a queen on e3, ready to fly out towards the queen side or form a battery here on the h-file. White is slowly gaining ground. Black is running in reverse. Black is stuck, continually working around the monster here on d5. Bishop here, queen g5, checks, maybe a battery. This is winning for white. Not a good idea to take towards the center. Black takes with the f-pawn. There's some coverage now over this 7th rank. The king is also, at the same time, a bit more vulnerable without that f7 pawn around. There's now a break on the queen's wing. This is the other thing black was setting up and putting the queen on f2, not only looking at these entry points, but it's a supporter for this next move, c5. Both sides of the board are wide open. Black has to continually work around this knight. Now, the computer says you could still hold this, but in practice, It's just not going to happen. You're eventually going to fumble. Let's see how play continues from here. Bishop back on its favorite square to tame the knight. Focus here on the c-file. Some reorganization with the white majors. Polgar wants this arrangement here, where the rook is the leader. Nearby there is rook c6. Okay, in comes h5. Rook d6, not interested in exchanging rooks. White has the more active rook. Let's keep it around. Follow up queen d7, queen c5. Look at the white pieces. All on black side of the board. Good luck defending this. King h6, rook b8, and from here bishop f6 is played. Now that turns out to be a decisive error. Computer says undo your last move. Just continually shuffle on these two squares is what it has its eye on. Now, before this last move was played, Polgar had to check something out. Had to have a response to rook c6. So again, in the game, bishop f6 is played. If rook c6, there's a trick here for Polgar. You could take the bishop. Rook takes queen, white's up the piece. So rook c6 not working here. Bishop f6 played. And let me throw this position to you as a pop quiz. How would you follow up here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, Polgar's reply, queen e3 check. Now, a move you want to stay clear of is a pawn grab. Polgar is not materialistic at this stage in the game. Queen takes a5 would be a losing move. That's how quickly this game can turn. That f3 move has exposed the white king. Its idea earlier was what? To put the queen on f2. Entering on the diagonal, well, rook c6 in this position, and black is all of a sudden winning. That's how quick the game can turn. Looking to enter on c2. Queen maybe next sweeping in on h3. A bit uncoordinated here. Not a good approach to go pawn grabbing. White here goes after the king. It's queen e3 check here. Now, it says best is king g7. We're looking at about a +1 evaluation with king g7. Follow-up from there could maybe be rook a8, targeting the a pawn. Also, rook a7 is an idea with a pin and win of the queen. Intersection square there, a7. Black's play is with bishop g5. Follow-up idea now, f4. Pawn takes pawn. You can't recapture. Black will start having fun. Queen g4 check. Follow-up checks from there. The only winning way is with rook h8 check, king g7, queen d4 check, bishop f6. This position here, Polgar had to see, I believe, clearly before she went from c5 to e3 to land the check. Why do I say that? Because the queen is hit and the rook is hit here. What's your way out of this scenario? Let me throw one more pop quiz your way. How would you continue here? Feel free to pause the video. Beautiful finish here. Queen captures bishop check. Rook takes queen. Skewer. Attracting the king to h7. This knight has stuck around on this square for 30-some moves. And now makes the final two moves. Swiping the rook with check, landing a fork, and picking up the queen. Black resigns. What an awesome sequence right there. Let's have a look at that one more time, dating all the way back to this moment here again. I believe it's at this position, in this position here, she had to see this possible sequence, one where you go for the queen sacrifice, check, only move, that's winning, and after this situation you have to go in for, you had to see that queen takes bishop is there with the skewer, with the fork, and the final position is winning. knight versus pawn ending. This is not a difficult ending. I should say there's more than one path to win. If we just play it out a little bit, the king will be responsible for holding up these two pawns, and the knight could simply go hunting for these pawns over here, and eventually white will work with two passed pawns, winning ending here. All right. Fantastic sequence to this one. What are your thoughts here? Feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.